Marcus, darling.
Ladies and gentlemen, bass players around the world, Detroit bass players, how y'all doing? We got with us, we're about to do an interview with the one and only Mr. Marcus Miller. How you doing, Marcus?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm fine. Welcome to Detroit. When's the last time you been here to Detroit?
Man, I don't even know, man. It might be over 10 years.
Wow.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I first came here with Norman Connors back in the late 70s. And then I came here with Lenny White, who's a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
And then I used to do gigs at Baker's Keyboard Lounge with a violinist named Michael Baniak, That was back in the day. And then I was here with Luther, Roberta Flack, when I was playing with them. And then when I started making my own albums, I was here in the 90s. But man, I think the last time I was here might have been 2001, 2002, something like that. So a long time.
Well, welcome back. Now, I'm doing this on behalf of Detroit bass players. We got a little organization that we really proud of. As you can see, I got on
Detroit bass players.
Yeah.
With a jazz bass.
And
picture of a jazz bass.
Yeah, and also in the house, we got a couple of more Detroit bass players who are in the house. We got none other than Mr. Reggie Canty. And who is that over there?
Joe Randa.
Joe Randa. And we also have in the house with us bass phenom, Mr. Brandon Rose, who we already did an interview, and he talked a lot. He talked a lot about you, man, as being a mentor.
Okay, good.
Mentor and stuff like that. So, first question I always like to ask, I done read interviews about you all over the place and everything, but I always like to know, when did you start playing the bass? When and why?
I started on piano. My father's a piano player, organist for the church, So I started on piano at 8 years old, 7, 8. Then on clarinet, 10 years old, saxophone at 11. But this was the 70s, and I was in love with R&B, funk, soul music, and I wanted an instrument that I could play in a band. And clarinet definitely wasn't working. I was playing organ a little bit, saxophone a little bit in the R&B bands, but that didn't feel like I was in the middle of the music, in the center of the music. Then my buddy got a bass for his birthday, and I started playing that and said, oh, this is what I'm talking about. In the 70s, all the music was based on the bass. You listen to Motown, you listen to any of the funk jams from the 70s. The bass was like the most important instrument. So when I started playing the bass, I felt like a connection, man. I said, this is an instrument I want to play.
Okay, listening to that bass and listening to knowing that the bass was the most melodic instrument, if you ask me, in the band. Who were some of the bass players that you were listening to that you know by now? Who were some of the guys that inspired you?
First guy was James Jamerson, right?
Another Detroit bass player.
Another Detroit bass player. I didn't know it was James Jamerson on the Jackson 5 records. I thought it was Jermaine Jackson playing on the records. And I said, that's the baddest 14-year-old bass player in the world. And I was 10 years old at the time, 11, actually 12 by this point. So I said, man, I got to get practicing, man, because I got to get as good as Jermaine. And it turned out it was James Jamerson. Also Wilton Felder, who played saxophone with the Crusaders. He's a bass player as well, and he played on some of those Jackson 5 records as well. So those guys influenced me, although I didn't know who they were, because they didn't really write the names of the musicians down at that time. After Jamerson, it was Cool in the Gang. They had some bad bass lines, so I was really admiring their bass lines. Isaac Hayes had some bad records. And then the next guy I started paying attention to was Francis Rocco Prestia, who played bass with Tower Power. He had a really cool finger style. And then Graham. Then I heard Graham.
Larry Graham.
And everybody in my neighborhood was tripping, man, because Graham was starting to have his own. He was starting to do his own thing with his band, Graham Central Station, and they had a song called "The Jam" that was blowing all of our mind. The Jam, and he had another one called "Hair" and "Can You Handle It." It was just like a band led by a bass player, man, and he just had so much character, and he was thumping and plucking. So I got into that style. Really influenced me a lot. Then Stanley Clarke, who took some of that Larry Graham stuff and put a little bit more jazz slant on it, and that really influenced me a lot. After Stanley Clarke, I heard Jaco Pastorius, who was coming from a different place. You know, he's playing fretless and a lot more wooden sound, you know, very melodic, and I got into that pretty heavy for a while. Pops Well, who plays bass with the Crusaders and some of our favorite records, you know. People don't really know about him, but he...
Cosmic Rain was the monster.
Cosmic Rain, yeah. He was playing some serious bass. He influenced me a lot. Paul Jackson, who played bass with the Headhunters, a very important bass player. Alphonso Johnson, who was a bass player before Jaco in Weather Report, is really, really underrated. You got to check out those records that he played, you know, Mysterious Traveler and all those records that he played with the Weather Report, really influential for me. After about 1975, 76, I stopped listening to the other guys. You know, I was growing up with a drummer named Omar Hakim. He was my classmate in high school. Bad drummer, man. He was like so far head and shoulders above the rest of us, man, that I was just hanging with him, just trying to soak up whatever I could soak up from him. And he said to me, okay, we're 15 years old, we gotta stop listening to other guys. And I said, why? He said, because we gotta find our own sound. And that was the first time I even heard something like that. Because when you're in high school, if you can play like somebody else, you're the man.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, that's what you want. And you're the hero of your high school. But Omar was really wise, you know, and he knew that once you get past high school, once you get past college, what you're gonna be judged on is if you have your own thing. So I took his word, stopped listening as much as I could, you know what I mean, and started putting myself in different musical situations to see if I could find something of my own.
Dig. Now we know you done played with everybody. If anybody watching this don't know who he's played with, just Google Marcus Miller and you'll see a lot of people. But when did you first start getting the professional gigs with the stage, backline, and you know the real gigs? And how did you get there? From what level, like playing with the high school guys to who? What?
I was playing with Omar Hakim, the guy I just mentioned. We had a band in New York called Harlem River Drive. And after a while, the group broke up, but the guitar player got a gig with Bobby Humphrey, who was a very famous flute player, like funk jazz, pop jazz flute player. He got the gig with her, and then he eventually got me auditioned for the bass spot. And I auditioned, I got in Bobby Humphrey's band. And I think I'm about 16, 17 years old at the time. And Bobby was like, you know, it was great to play with her. I was on stage, I was traveling around, not very far. We were in New York, we were going up to Massachusetts, down to Philly, that kind of stuff, out to Detroit. And then I wrote a song for Bobby, because I was starting to write my little tunes. I wrote a song for Bobby Humphrey and played it for her. She said, I love this, I want to record it on my next album. My producer's Ralph McDonald. I'm going to ask Ralph if he likes the song and if he'll let you play bass on it. So he did, man. I came in, man. He made Anthony Jackson get up out of his seat so that I could play on my little tune. You know what I mean? So it was Steve Gadd and Richard T. and Eric Gale, all the bad, top shelf New York session guys. So I sat in and played my song, and it went fine. And that was that, man. A year later, I wrote another song for Bobby, but this time I said, man, if I'm gonna get a chance to play with these cats again, I'm gonna make sure they can see what I can do. So I put a bass solo in the song, right? Mm-hmm. So came in and Ralph said, well, you know, the guy didn't do too bad last time. He can come in and play again. This time I played, and I did my thing in the middle of the song. And Ralph was looking at me. He said, can you read music? I said, yeah. He said, no, don't BS me. Can you read music? Because I'm about to recommend you to do these sessions around here in New York, and you got to be able to read. I said, man, I play classical clarinet. I play classical clarinet. I can play anything they put in front of me. Fly poops on the music paper, I play that, you know? So he's like, okay. And about 2 weeks later, man, I got called for a jingle, you know, music for a commercial. Mm-hmm. And it was Ralph and all the guys there, man. I read it down, and within 3 months, I was working 7 days a week, man, day and night.
That is so awesome, man. And like I said, folks, y'all go check out his website, and you can see all these other places. And I know you got a show to do. You got 2 shows to do tonight here in Detroit.
You playing 2 shows?
Yeah, one at 8 and one at 10.
8, jazz, baby.
Okay, so I ain't want to keep you. You know, I don't like keeping people. I just want everybody to tell their stories. But some little connection we got. Another connection we got with Detroit is in the upcoming issue of Bass Player magazine. I think it's the October issue, you're on the cover like once again. Once again, you're on the cover. Is it November or October? I don't know. It's one of the two, October or November. And inside that same issue, right in the center, page 20 and page 21, they have a big old photo spread of the Detroit bass players that gathered in front of the Hitsville Studio / Motown Museum. And, that's pretty cool for you to have that cover, for us to be in the centerfold. And tonight,
Wrap it up. Come on, wrap it up.
Will you be performing a song called Detroit tonight?
You know I'm gonna do it. You know I'm gonna do it. I've been catching hell from every other city. So I'm finally here in Detroit. I can play Detroit without apologizing.
So he has a song called Detroit on his album. And Marcus Miller, we'd like to thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for doing this interview. And you like one of my legends, one of the historical bass players.
Thank you.
In the world, and thank you for doing this interview with us on behalf of Detroit Bass Players Magazine. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
Detroit bass players, man. I heard there's like 150 y'all standing in front of Motown, man. That's beautiful, man. Mm-hmm. So, man, I say congratulations, man. It's about time people started paying attention, man. So, there we go.